Barn, baseball's greatest home run hitter, hit his last home run for Milwaukee against the California Angels. Jimmy Fox, old Double X, the pride of the Philadelphia A's and the Boston Red Sox, hit 534 home runs to the 8th on the list. And a brilliant youngster out of Oklahoma, the switch-hitting Mickey Mantle, is the number 6 home run hitter on the all-time list. And between the kid from Oklahoma named Mantle and Double X named Fox comes a 40-year-old wizard by the name of Reginald Martinez Jackson. Reggie Jackson, 1 home run away from Mantle, 1 home run ahead of Jimmy Fox. And coming up 40, he's coming up against the Milwaukee Brewers here on NBC.
National Broadcasting Company, now in its 6th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today, from County Stadium in Milwaukee, it's the California Angels versus the Milwaukee Brewers. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there is only one light beer. By Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Canon. From personal copiers to high-performance copying systems, the choice is Canon. And by Midas. For mufflers, brakes, and shocks. Trust the Midas touch.
From County Stadium in Milwaukee, NBC presents the visiting California Angels with right-hander Ron Romanick and the Milwaukee Brewers and right-hander Bill Wegman. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Quite a contrast here. Tremendous interest in an upcoming 40-year-old by the name of Reggie Jackson. And in direct contrast, we have 2 of the brighter young ball players on the major league scene.
And we can carry it even a step farther. I think, Vin, to the point that nobody figured the California Angels would be where they are. And Gene Mock, the manager, simply says, hey, nobody asks about a birth certificate when you play baseball. It's what you do. And they're in pretty good shape.
Well, of course, it seems like an Angel pattern. Last year, I think they were in first place for over 130 days, and then the veterans seemed to run out of gas. But when you start looking at Wally Joyner at first, and then you look at Billy Joe Robideau going for Milwaukee, you know, youth must be served.
I thought the 4 best players in the Cactus League this spring were Robideau, Joyner, Canseco, and Will Clark. And we're going to see 2 of them today. 2 good-looking young players.
And although it's not an earth-shaking note, the California Angels are the only team in the major leagues not to have lost back-to-back games. Well, they lost last night, so the challenge is in front of them and Ron Romanick and Bill Wegman today. We'll get to the starting lineups. We'll have all the pregame stats and stories coming up right after this.
This is Gene Mock, and this is the Angels lineup for today's game. In center field, and leading off is baseball's finest center fielder, Gary Pettis. Hitting at the number 2 spot is Rob Wilfong, who's playing like Rob Wilfong of old. Number 3 hitter is Wally Joyner. And people that remember Mickey Byrne are going to see almost a reincarnation. Fine young player. If Casey Stengel were still alive, he'd say the amazing Reggie Jackson is hitting in the cleanup spot. Brian Downing, our left fielder, is hitting 5th. Doug DeCinze at third base is hitting 6th. Rupert Jones, who scored an awful lot of big runs for us this year, is in right field and batting 7th. Dick Schofield is the shortstop, and baseball's finest quarterback, Bob Boone, is doing the catching. On the mound, Ron Romanick.
On a beautiful day here in Milwaukee, here's the way the Milwaukee Brewers stack up.
Ogilvy's in left field. Felder's hurt. Young is in center field. Maybe strange to some people, but he has been playing center field and doing a good job. Rob Deere is in right field. Molitor, Riles, and there's a surprise. Shortstop, Reddy Robideau One of the fine young players at first base. Cerrone the catcher. Wegman is the pitcher.
Well, we're about ready to get this thing underway, and Bill Wegman will face Gary Pettis. Strike, 0-1. Pettis, you might have noticed in the news the other day when he bumped into plate umpire John Shulock in an argument in Toronto. Now that Lou Piniella has been suspended 2 games by bumping Tim Casita, the Angels are kind of tiptoeing on eggs, waiting to see whether Gary Pettis will be suspended or not. 1-1. High drive to straightaway center. Robin Yount is there, and he'll put it away. 1 down. So Gary Pettis a fly ball. Bill Wegman, another one of the young pitchers here at Milwaukee. He was 2-0 last year. He beat Baltimore twice. He's looking for his first win this year. This, by the way, he is so new to the big leagues. This is his first major league appearance in a day game. Here's Rob Wilfong. You heard Gene Mauch say that Wilfong is playing like the Wilfong of old. Well, in his last 4 games, he's hitting .385. And, of course, Gene had him at Minnesota. He's a hard-nosed kid. When you look at Gene Mauch in County Stadium, I know it must have entered his mind when the Angel team bus arrived here. It was way back in 1964. Gene Mauch was managing the Philadelphia Phillies. Ball 2. And the Phillies came here. They lost the first game of a doubleheader. It was their 23rd consecutive loss. And the second game of the doubleheader against the Milwaukee Braves, the Phillies won. So when I saw Mauch before the game, and I said to him, who was the winning pitcher? And like that, he said, John Buzhart. I mean, he wouldn't forget that.
No way.
So it brings back a lot of memories. County Stadium in Milwaukee, home of the Brewers, formerly of the Braves. 2-2, the count to Rob Wilfong. And he goes the other way, down the left field line, foul, back into the seats, still 2-2.
One thing manager George Bamberger says about Wegman is that he has to challenge the hitters more. He gets a little defensive. And you notice against Pettis and Wilfong, he started right out with strikes, and he just is rearing back and pumping strikes, and that's what George wants him to do.
2-2. And he drives it to center, but Robin of Yount is there, and just like that, 2 up and 2 away. You know, these 2 clubs played it hard last year, even though the Angels won 9 out of 12. 6 of their victories were by 1 run, so they cut them close.
That they do. Wegman doesn't have any trick pitches. It's a fastball, a slider. He has a changeup, turns the ball over once in a while. When he misses, he usually misses down. If he gets the ball up, he's in trouble. And here is Joyner, one of the fine-looking young hitters.
He has a 7-game hitting streak, does Wally Joyner. Interesting, he was at a high school awards banquet in Georgia when he was in high school, and the star of the banquet was Dale Murphy of the Atlanta Braves. And opening day, there was a telegram in his locker, and it began, Nancy and I know you can play. Best wishes for a great season. Signed, Dale Murphy. And Joyner is doing just that, having a great season. He lips one to left field. Ben Ogilvie is there, has a bead on it. 3 fly balls, and the first inning is in the books. The Angels go 1-2-3, and at the end of half an inning, Angels nothing, and the Brewers coming out.
Fans, here is a reminder.
As we go to the bottom of the first inning, here's the way the Brewers stack up offensively. Paul Molitor, who stole home last night, front man of a double steal, is at third base. Ernest Riles will be the shortstop. Cecil Cooper, 3 hits away from 2,000 in his great career as the DH. Robin Yount, a seasoned veteran at the age of 30 in center field. The rookie, Billy Joe Robideau, he's at first. Ben Ogilvie, who has had his problems, but he's back in the starting lineup in left field. The strong man on the ball club, if he makes contact, Rob Deere in right. One of our favorite names for a big league ball player, Randy Reddy, and he's at the ready. Juan Castillo not playing. Jim Gantner is hurt, so Reddy's at second, and Rick Cerrone goes behind the plate.
Defensively, Downing is in left field, and what a job he's been doing. Pettis, you've seen some great catches from him. Rupert Jones in right field. DeSensei's at third base. What can you say about his gloves? Schofield, Wilfong, Joyner, the infield, Boone behind the plate. And it was interesting that Gene Mauch called him the baseball's best quarterback, and Ron Romanek is on the mound.
Ron Romanek has a lot of problems, a history of first-inning troubles. And there's ball one to Paul Molitor. Prior to this season, he was giving up a run in the first inning almost all of his starts. He is 2-1. He beat Milwaukee 4 times without a loss last year, 6 in one lifetime.
Romanek's the kind of a guy who would not impress you on the sidelines.
1 ball, no strikes. Ball 2.
What I mean by that is he doesn't overpower you. He's got all the pitches. He has to have command of them, and he has to spot them. You'll see Booney moving around behind that plate.
2-0. Line drive, base hit into center field. So Molitor opens up with a ringing single, makes a huge turn. He went almost halfway. Last night, Molitor, the front man on a delayed double steal. And as the throw went down to second too late, Molly, as they call him, came in head first to steal home.
George Bamberger explaining that said it was no trick play. He said, I wanted to stay away from the double play. I would have run the guy on 3-1, but I thought, well, if Cooper misses the ball, we'll be out of the inning, so I'll run him 3-2. And he says, don't you know, we got a double steal out of it. You got to like that kind of thinking.
And how? Well, with Molitor at first, here's Ernest Riles. Ball 1. George Bamberger thinks that Riles is a great 2-strike hitter, and he might very well be a better hitter than he is a fielder. He was also a very successful hitter at home last year, maybe 100 points higher at home than on the road.
Vin, I first saw him at the Baseball Decathlon show, which will be coming up on NBC, and he's got more power than I thought he had.
Oh, we see now Romanek works him, and that's a little low. Ball 2.
He almost won the home run hitting contest.
Really? Who was in the contest?
Von Hayes, Tony Gwynn, Mike Schmidt, and this kid came up there, and he started popping them out like crazy.
Ernest Riles with Molitor at first, nobody out, just the start of the ball game. Remember, the Angels, the only team in the major leagues not to have lost back-to-back games. Ground ball to Joyner. He goes to shortstop for 1, back to first, not in time. The runner stopped immediately. Paul Molitor just jammed on the brakes.
And Joyner ends up off the bag. Now watch what he does here. Now, see Schofield. Wait, look where Joyner is.
Cecil Cooper.
Molitor, he looked like he might have been confused. I don't know what he was doing. There's Molitor. And he said, well,
where'd the ball go? So with 1 out and Riles at first, here is Cecil Cooper, 3 hits away from 2,000. 1 out, first inning, no score. Breaking ball for a strike. The Angels led the major leagues last year in turning double plays, but they let that one get away. I don't know, maybe Molitor confused Joyner a little.
Could be, because he just stopped right in his tracks.
0-1 to Cecil. Cooper had been operated on at the end of last year, had a very slow spring training, actually none at all. So by the time the season started, he was a long way from being ready, and they're bringing along slowly. He's only had 46 at-bats. Line towards center. Coming up is Gary Pettis to make the catch, and back to first goes Ernest Riles. So 2 down. And Robin Yount coming up.
This is a good ballpark for Pettis to play center field. A lot of room. He really takes charge, and he plays a fairly shallow center field, as you saw on that last one hit by Cooper. Big ballpark for him. 402 in dead center field.
It's not a big ballpark if you're a pitcher. It's only 315 down the lines, and straight away left and right only 362. Then it falls away, and the power alleys are 392, and straightaway center 402. Robin Yount with an 8-game streak and a strike. You can see where Robin is, top of the heap. The biggest surprise, really, is not just Kirby Puckett's batting average, but his muscle. Every time you pick up the paper now, he has a home run. He's hit 10. Ground ball to short, Schofield to Wilfong, and they get the force on Riles, and that's it. A base hit and nothing else, and at the end of an inning, the Angels nothing, the Brewers nothing. Don't forget, coming up next, the Panasonic Las Vegas Classic Invitational. It'll be the 4th round of a 5-round tournament. The stakes are high indeed. Donnie Hammond, leading right now, has a chance to win over $200,000, and the field competing for over $1 million in total prize money. That's right here on NBC Sports. And right here is Reggie Jackson. Reggie, of course, recently passing Jimmy Fox, the number 8 slot, when he hit his 5th home run. And he is 1 away now from catching Mickey Mantle. 1-1. How does he feel about Mantle? Well, I don't have the impact on the game that Mantle had, but it will be a thrill when I tie him and pass him. And his first opportunity today. There's where he is on the list. Number 7, 1 back of Mantle. 1-1. And he lines it to right. Rob Deere makes the catch for the out. Reggie's had other difficulties, not just trying to hit the ball. Watch him try to get the weighted donut off Dick Schofield's bat. Little Schofield couldn't get it off. DeCinces couldn't get it off. Reggie said, wait a minute, let me have it. I mean, I wear double 4s. I've been through this. Look, I'm going to use my head, see? And first I'll hit the top of the, well, then maybe I'll ram the, well, now, I'm working it down.
Imagine trying to get the donut off the wrong end.
You know what's interesting about that? You wouldn't believe it, but it's true. They finally got that leaded donut off the bat. And Schofield went up to the plate. Sure, Jackson had touched his bat. Schofield hit a home run.
Schofield's dad is here watching the game. Mark said when Schofield hit a home run the other day, he said his dad would rather see him hit a home run than get 10 straight singles.
Brian Downing having a solid start in '86. Big chopper foul outside of 3rd and down the line.
In describing Downing, Gene Mark uses an old expression. He's a horse.
Oh, boy.
That really says it all to the baseball man.
I tell you, if Carlton Fisk can convert from catcher to left field the way Brian Downing has done, that will really be something. Downing, of course, a catcher who is now about as good a left fielder as there is in the American League.
Wasn't that a nostalgic thing Fisk said when he played left field in Fenway Park?
Yeah, what memories.
Yeah, and line drive, base hit for Brian Downing. Said he always looked out and he saw the wall in left field, but playing left field was like turning his back to a friend. Brian Downing, just to complete the thought on what an outfielder he is, his last 2 years he's played left field without committing an error. Here's Doug DeCinces. He has a very modest 3-game hitting streak. He has not been lucky. Last night he hit the ball hard 4 times and got 1 base hit. And when I asked Gene about that, he said he has just been hitting the ball right on the screws and just not getting base hits. And I'll tell you what really hurts. He has left an awful lot of men on base. So it's really frustrating to have him hit the ball so hard and come up empty. But this time he singles to right, and Downing is on his way to third, to throw to third, gets away, backed up by Wegman in the runner's hole. So it's a good play by the rookie pitcher, Bill Wegman. He was in the right spot. Otherwise, the Angels have a run. Brian Downing was coming all the way on the ground ball. Wasn't hit that hard. He kind of breaks stride as he gets to second base, and you can see him dig. He knows he's going to have a play at third base. Slides in, the throw is off, and a good piece of hitting by DeCinces. He just saw the big gap between first and second and punched the ball right through there. So now he's hit in 4 straight. The Angels have runners at first and third, 1 out in the second inning, and Rupert Jones coming up. Fouled away. You might remember last year, Rupert Jones had a very big first half. He had 15 home runs and 40 RBIs, but he had a downer in the second half. Now struggling at the start of this year. So it's been a long period of frustration for Rupert Jones. And a ground ball to first. They will go to short for 1, back to first, double play, and they're out of the inning. Good play from Robideau to Riles and back to Robideau. No runs, 2 hits, a man left at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Here's that double play again. Robideau's throw is a good one, away from the runner. You see the runner stop. Then I think the interesting thing about not only this play, but in the First inning for California, Joyner tried for the 3-6-3. And my point being that here are two young players, and both of them not afraid to try for that double play 3-6-3, which is a very difficult one. I mean, it could be one of those plays where you could safety first and step on the bag, but neither one satisfied. They went for the 2.
What I still don't understand, admittedly, it was an easy force play, but on 2 occasions now, the runner going from first to second has stopped. And why they stop, I don't know. I mean, you would think the runner, sure, he's going to be forced, but he's got to go into the bag and try and prevent the double play. But the runner just bailed out. The sensei said, okay. He just backed off.
I have no explanation for it.
No. It's just the way they play. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Billy Joe Robideau. And that Joe is spelled J-O, and somebody said, we thought it was J-O-E. He said, well, I dropped the E because it makes it easier to sign autographs. That puts him as a left-handed character who is right up there behind Joyner. See those baby booners again. There they are. And the one fellow who is struggling, as you can see, Texas Pete Incaviglia. 2-2. Ball 3. Ron Romanek.
Billy Joe gives you a lot of room in that batter's box. He's way away from that plate, but he strides right into it.
So with the good eye, he draws the first walk of the game. Romanek passes Robideau, and that'll bring up Ben Ogilvie. Gene Mauch already seen his ball club frustrated. You know, you have 2 of the oldest managers in the major leagues in this game. Gene Mauch and George Bamberger are each 60 years old. Bambi talking to big Frank Howard. It's interesting, the youngest manager is Bobby Valentine, who's 35. Valentine was 9 years old when Gene Mauch managed his first big league game. 1-0. Ben Ogilvie, he has a $700,000 contract with an option next year. He's had an injured hand in spring training. He hurt his left shoulder early in the season, so it's been a struggle for him. Now back, 1-1.
He took early batting practice and was really hitting the ball well. Watching him in that batting practice, it looked like he was taking a page out of Cecil Cooper's book in the way he kind of got that weight back on the back foot, the Charlie Lau theory. Good hitter.
Well, with that $700,000 contract and the option, he's got to get healthy and play and put up some big numbers so that the option will be exercised. 1-1. High fly ball into straightaway right. Moving over is Rupert Jones. Easy out, 1 down. That'll bring up Rob Deere.
He didn't seem to have any problems with the fly ball, Rupert Jones, but it is a high sky, not many clouds up there, if any, to help the ball players. So we could see some adventures by players on pop flies.
There's an adventure at home plate for Rob Deere. Deere is big and tremendously strong and very fast for a big man, but he strikes out almost half the time. In fact, he's on a pace right now to break the record, which was tied by Gorman Thomas. And if he continued his pace, he'd strike out 176 times. But you know what they like about him? Well, in his American League debut, he hit a home run against Tom Seaver, and he hit it over the Comiskey Park roof. He's about as strong as they come. Used to be with the San Francisco Giants. He's a kid from Orange, California, so he grew up less than 5 minutes from Anaheim Stadium. He's one of those kids, if he just makes contact, he's got a big chance. He leads the club with the 4 home runs.
You get a guy that hits the ball like that, and the reputation carries you for 4 or 5 years. Every time he strikes out, you'll hear somebody say, tell you one thing, if he ever gets a hold of one, right. No park can hold him.
Yeah, right. Romanek is a home run pitcher, at least the last few times out. There's strike 3 on the corner to punch out Rob Deere. So he'll be above a pitcher's mantelpiece if he keeps striking out. 2 down.
Bob Boone gets it right on the corner. See him kind of lean there. A perfect pitch, and this is one of those I'll be there plays. He saw he had a chance. The first baseman was there. He threw it.
You know, I wonder, too, really. That's great for Boone. That pitch upstairs looked to me like maybe it was off the plate, and I wonder if umpires aren't influenced by certain hitters and their reputation. If that's Musial, if there's some great hitter, that's a ball.
About it. Well, Musial Williams always got 4 strikes, and if I hear from Ted Williams, fine. Ted Williams, Dan Musial, the good hitters all got 4 strikes. I don't care what the umpires say.
Yeah, and I think a kid like Rob Drew, they say, well, he's a strikeout hitter, and they say, that's strike, you're gone.
I've had umpires say, when I said that ball was not a strike, how would you know? I mean, the umpire, they would never say that to the good hitter. You think they'd say that to Williams, who can smell the bat burn?
0-2. Oh, was it Tewksbury of the Yankees said when Willie Wilson charged and said, you're throwing at me? He said, why would I throw at you? You're an out.
An instant out, right.
What a zinger.
But you're right. They go by reputation. But Booney is one of the best framers of pitches as far as catchers go.
There's a little looper right at Schofield. So they leave Robideau, who walked at the end of 2, no score, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Reggie Jackson, and he is certainly a big portion of the story that is unfolding here today. He needs a home run to tie the great Mickey Mantle, and he'll be 40 the middle of the month. Of course, it's interesting to think about the age 40 and think about the greatest home run hitter, Henry Aaron. Because Aaron, at the age of 40, actually when he was 39 years old, Aaron hit 40 home runs. And you can't come here without thinking about Henry. Hard ground ball knocked down at third by Molitor, but Molly can't make a play. So Schofield gets a single, but Molitor held it from being a double.
Molitor really does a good job knocking that ball down, almost makes the play. Certainly saved the double. Interesting, Schofield jumping on that pitch, because before the game, Mark said, look, he's going to throw you a lot of sliders now. Just kind of halfway look for it and then do something with it. Obviously, he listens well.
So Dick Schofield at first, and here's Bob Boone. We'll see if they put a play on with Booney, trying to avoid the double play. Dick Schofield is not a base stealer. 1-0.
Boone still going to that wide open stance of his, taking a good look at his third base coach, and that's always good.
How about that note? More than his dad in 19 years. 1-0, and there he goes. Hit and run fly ball. Ogilvie started in on the ball, but now picks it up. And all the way at second and coming back is Schofield. So they played hit and run, and Booney a fly ball.
Center fielder, Jerry Pettis.
So far, Wegman has the ball hit in the air. The only time the ball was hit on the ground is when Wegman wanted it on the ground. Rupert Jones hit into a rally-ending and inning-ending double play. All the other outs have been in the air. Bill Wegman, he's 23. Juan Nieves is 21. Then you have Teddy Higuera and Tim Leary. They only had a total of 22 victories coming into this year. That's all. So it's a baby staff. But at the same time, all you have to do is look at Kansas City in '84 when they had Saberhagen at 20, Gubazar at 21, Danny Jackson 22. So they're going in the right direction.
Same thing Texas is doing.
And how? Ed Correa, Jose Guzman, Bobby Witt, great young pitchers. Correa pitching a shutout last night to beat the Yankees. Baseball America, baseball publication, felt that the Milwaukee Brewers have the best minor league organization right now of any ball club in the big leagues, which would be a tribute to Harry Dalton and company.
The youth movement is on.
Well, when you come here and you see the Angels playing Milwaukee, it's not too hard to turn the clock back. 1982, the Angels came here in the American League Championship Series. The Angels were leading 2-0, and they lost 3 straight. The '82 Brewers were the first team to ever overcome an 0-2 disadvantage in a league championship series, and it took place right here. Another thing the history books tell you about doing a Brewers-Angels game, it's a natural. That's hit foul out of play. The first game for the Milwaukee Brewers was in 1970. It was against the California Angels. And the Angels won that little game 12-0. So it's just right to be here. And of course, the big note, Henry Aaron hit his last home run, number 755, right here at County Stadium against the Angels. Dick Drago was the pitcher. There goes the runner. A bunt is missed. The throw down to second. They get him by plenty. Schofield hung out to dry when Pettis misses the bunt. Good throw by Rick Cerrone, easily handled by Randy at the ready.
Surprising that they would even run him because Pettis does strike out a lot. He was bunting for the base hit is what he was doing. Cerrone's throw is a perfect throw in plenty of time, and Schofield is an easy out.
You know, you mentioned a good point about Pettis, and the Angels would love to have Pettis be the leadoff man every single day. But his problem is making contact, and Schofield would take the stand to explain what happens to you if Pettis doesn't make contact. 1-2. Well, there he goes, punched out, and that's that. No runs, a hit, nobody left. And at the end of 2.5 innings, the Angels nothing and Milwaukee nothing.
This is Bill McAtee in New York. Top of the second in Philadelphia, and the Atlanta Braves have had a big inning. Andres Thomas with a double into the alley in left center. That brings home Bob Horner, who had singled. The Braves got 3 more, and it is now 4-0 Atlanta. Let's send you back to Vin and Joe.
Number 11.
The Atlanta Braves starting to manufacture some runs for Chuck Tanner. Seems like they come in spurts for just about every team. Everyone seems to have dry spells and then suddenly picks up a bucketful. Now we go to the bottom of the third, no score. It'll be Rick Cerrone, Paul Molitor, and Ernest Riles. Cerrone and Charlie Moore have been doing the catching because the heir apparent, the #1 Milwaukee catcher, Bill Schroeder, has been on the disabled list with a bad elbow. He's down at El Paso doing rehab, and he's almost ready.
He caught 9 innings again yesterday. I asked about him with George Bamberger, and he's about ready to be brought up.
2-0, the count to Rick Cerrone. No score. That's it.
Interesting when you talk about who's catching who. George said Nieves and Higuera, Charlie Moore catches him, and Larry and Wegman, Cerrone catches him.
2-1.
And there's nothing mysterious about it. He said he just looked and he saw that, hey, when Nieves pitches, pitched real good, Charlie Moore was his catcher, so why don't I just do it again? And he does.
Chopper down to shortstop, fielded by Schofield, who takes care of him. So Cerrone rolls to short, 1 away. We talked about memories coming here to County Stadium in Milwaukee, and for baseball people everywhere, what a memory. May the 3rd, 1936. Joe DiMaggio broke into the box score. Coming out of San Francisco, the quiet youngster with all the talent in the world. Just imagine, 50 years ago,
don't
Joe
say
D.
it. Don't say it.
Only you, me, and Mrs. Robinson know where Joe DiMaggio went.
Wherever he is, he creates excitement with that quiet elegance.
Molitor singled in the first inning. 0-1 the count.
It's an experience to walk into a room or even an elevator with DiMaggio to watch how people just look at him.
Yeah, he's a superstar, right? Super. 1-1 the count. Yes, missed. Romanek wanted it, but he didn't get it, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike.
During the course of the game with the center field shot, just watch how Boone catches that ball, and you'll see what I mean when I talk about framing it. No pitcher really ever looks wild with him behind there.
2-1 to Molitor. Molitor the other night tied a club record, which is not one he's proud of. He struck out 4 times in a game against Oakland. That was a club record held by Gorman Thomas. 3-1. Shot right up the middle. It almost got a piece of Romanek, and Romanek almost got a piece of the ball. It just got by his glove.
You mentioned records and you mentioned DiMaggio. I was looking at a record book just to pass time on the plane. And you know the record I want to live long enough to see broken?
What's that? His streak?
No. When it says putouts by a first baseman in an inning 3. I'd like to see that broken. What kind of record is that?
Record. Here's Ernest Riles, who hit into a force play in the first inning. 4-1, 1-0. You know, an interesting point. look at DiMaggio, you think of Gehrig, you think of the great Yankees, and you start thinking of consecutive game streaks. You think of Steve Garvey, you think of Dale Murphy's streak alive, Cal Ripken Jr. And Ripken made a great point. 1 ball and no strikes to Riles. The runner going, ground ball. Up with it is Joyner. The play at second is late, and the pitcher forgot to cover at first. Romanek was late getting over, and Schofield had nowhere to throw the ball. So the Angels have a mental letdown there.
Joyner had to go far to his right to get it. Watch, he makes a good play. Now, there's a good break by Molitor. Joyner's only play really is to second base, and it's not even close, and Schofield can't do anything because Romanek, he turned into a spectator. He's going to watch, and he says, oh, I better get over there, and he's really not busting really hard to get over there. He kind of jogged over there, and it cost him.
Yeah, he was really going towards the line. Now, they'll teach a pitcher to angle so that you can hit the inside of the bag with your right foot and stay out of the runner's way, but he was just going straight towards the foul line. We'll see now if the Brewers can cash that mistake in. 2 on, 1 out. 0-1 to Cecil Cooper. And a very tough man with runners in scoring position. He has 5 RBIs, and he's 4 for 8 in that kind of a spot. Like 0-2 to Cecil Cooper.
There was a perfect example, as we look at the on-deck hitter, Robin Yount, of what I was talking about with Boone, the way he caught that ball. He didn't catch it with the face of the glove up. He caught it sideways where the ball was in the strike zone.
0-2. And down goes Cecil Cooper. A big out for Romanek. That's his second strikeout. And the batter will be Robin Yount, coming up with an 8-game hitting streak. The Brewers have come a long way from 1982, and they've really had a power outage here. In 1982, the team hit 216 home runs. But they have tailed off considerably in the power department. In fact, up here they say they've gone from Brew Crew to New Crew. And with 2 on, here's a member of the Brew Crew, Robin Yount.
Robin Yount took the first pitch all night last night, and he took the first pitch first time up. I had to look for him to jump on this one.
In the dirt, and coming over to third is Molitor. So Romanek bouncing one for a wild pitch.
Molitor, good piece of base running. Trailing the play was Riles, but he stays at first base. I mean, that's a good block by Boone, because it was a 55-foot curveball, and nothing Boone could do but eat it once he picks it up. You see him checking Riles. Riles didn't move.
There you can see the power outage here as they have tailed off. Came back a little bit last year, but they're just not a power-hitting team. And George Bamberger doesn't really believe in hit and run, nor does the team steal. He's going to beat you with some fancy footwork, and they need some gloves. They have to turn it around from last year. Last year, among the Brewers' problems, they led the league in unearned runs allowed. They played fast and loose with the baseball, and George Bamberger has to tighten that up considerably. 2-0, the count to Robin Yount. First and third, 2 out in the third, no score. Fouled away. Hard to believe Yount is only 30 years old. Of course, he was playing here at 18. So he's a 13-year veteran. Look at that. I was asking George Bamberger about Yount's arm. I said, well, if he's got a bad arm, how can you put him in center field? And he said, well, a center fielder has an easier throw, less strain on the body than a shortstop who has to twist the upper torso and throw from all kinds of unnatural angles. 2-1. Ball 3.
They were talking to Bamberger, the writers were, trying to find out if he's running the club more, just to pick up on your point. And he said the only reason it looks that way is because of Felder, who has 9 stolen bases. He said the next guy is Robin Yount, 4. He said, George said, I don't run just to run, because he believes you can run yourself out of an inning more than you can run yourself into an inning.
You mentioned Mike Felder, who has 9 stolen bases. He pulled a hamstring last night, so he's out. Jim Gantner has a bad knee and was also hit on the elbow by Jose Rio of Oakland. So two of his better players have to sit this one out. 3-1. And it's ball 4 to Yount to load him up. And the chant begins, Billy Joe Robidoux.
One thing you can say about this youngster is that he knows the strike zone. He threw a base on balls his first time up, but George Bamberger, his manager, first thing he said about him was he knows the strike zone, he can handle it.
Well, just to listen to the public address announcer here is an experience calling out all those syllables. He drags every one of them out. So it's a battle cry, and with the bases loaded and 2 down, no score in the third, Ron Romanek in a jam, pitching from a stretch. Paul Molitor is at third. Ernest Riles is at second, and Robin Yount at first. High fly ball, and it's playable, and Gary Pettis is there to put it away. And that's it. The Brewers lead 3, and at the end of 3, the Angels nothing and the Brewers nothing. Don't forget, next week, the game of the week, the Cincinnati Reds and the New York Mets. Others will see the San Diego Padres and the Chicago Cubs. Next Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Angels out of a jam now come up offensively in the 4th. Wilfong, Joyner, and Jackson. A bunt, and a good bunt. Wegman couldn't get on track, and Molitor can't make the play. I was wondering when I saw Pettis try to bunt. I thought that the Angels might try. One reason being, Wegman is 6 feet 6 inches tall. And when you're up there, you start looking at elbows and kneecaps. Your first thought is, hey, I think I'll make this big guy move around. Molitor couldn't make it, and Wegman never got untracked off the mound. So Wilfong, a single.
It's a good thought, but I tell you, the bunt he laid down is a beauty, and Molitor is a very good fielder with a great arm, so he's the equalizer as far as negating the bunt, but when you make him like that, you're not going to stop him.
So now the Angels with Wilfong at first and Wally Joyner at the plate. Joyner had a bunt single last night, his second of the year. He flied to left in the first inning.
Gene just raves about, Mark raves about this youngster Joyner. He was the one hit the home run when that in the Metrodome when the tarp tore.
They call him Wally World. Remember that Chevy Chase movie? Well, here's Wally World.
Mark said it was like watching The Natural. He said the speaker started to sway, a lot of noise, and he just stood there and finally hit the home run to end it.
That's a strike. 1-1. For the Angels, the highest batting average ever turned in by a rookie, Carney Lansford, hit .294, and this fella might very well hit well above that. 1-1 to Joyner. No score. Top of the 4th inning. Wilfong at first. On deck, Reggie Jackson. 2-1. Another thing that impresses you with Joyner, of course, it's a fact as you see Big Reggie loosening up. Joyner strikes out about 10% of the time. 10% and with power.
He looks like he can hit. He's got the moves.
2 balls and 1 strike to Wally Joyner, trying to extend his hitting streak to 8. Wilfong held on at first by Robidoux. Little foul ball down the line. That'll give you a chance to realize Joyner has hit 6 home runs. Last year, the Angels played Rod Carew, Juan Benitez, Darrell Sconiers, and Bobby Grich, all at first base. And those 4 men combined only total 7 home runs while playing the position. 2-2. Ground ball hard to the right side to Reddy. He goes to Riles. That's all they get. And we finally saw a runner go through and break it up. Let's go to Bill McAtee for an update in New York.
Your attention, please, Mike.
All right, Vin, the Phillies have come right back against the Braves. Philadelphia gets a run here despite the nice snag by Claudell Washington. Rick Shue collects the RBI as Tom Foley scores. It is now 5-2 Atlanta. The Braves have just scored now in the 3rd.
Well, the Braves have put a dent in Steve Carlton last night, beat him 7-1. Now rack up a quick 5 in Philadelphia. Reggie Jackson, first time up, flied to right field in the second inning. Whoa. He was going to catch Mantle with that swing.
He's thinking two things, home run and pull.
Whoa, here it is.
What a swing. He had that little bit of a loop to get under that ball and drive it. He'd have hit that one. He certainly would have had him sing himself a dinger.
0-1 to count to Reggie. Close. Very close. Tagged down at the foot by Robideau. So the two young first basemen, Billy Joe Robideau and the runner, Wally Joyner.
Pretty good move by Wegman.
Yeah. Check swing, a slow roll at a short. Riles feeds Reddy, who goes back to first, and they get the double play. A check swing double play, 6-4-3. No runs, one hit, nobody left, except the frustrated Reggie Jackson. Frustrated on that check swing, and they still were able to double him up. Riles feeding his man Reddy, and they'll get Reggie. No score, middle of the fourth. $1 million in total prize money. That's at the end of 3 rounds, and remember, it is a 5-round tournament, and it'll be on immediately after baseball. Let's take a look at that double play and the attempt to break it up, Joe.
Classic slide by Joyner. He really gets to Reddy. Reddy hangs in there and just takes the normal fall for a second baseman. Contrast to what Ozzie Smith did last week.
Foul ball down the left field line, out of play, off the bat of Ben Ogilvie. 0-2.
If you were with us last week, you remember Ozzie Smith went into Wally Backman and used his elbows to take him out, and I saw in the paper the next day because I had to stay overnight, and Ozzie said he was just trying to wake somebody up on his club.
0-2. I know of a veteran ball player who said it, quote, it was a dirty play.
And I don't know who said it, but I'm sure they all felt it. There's an IOU out there that's going to be cashed in.
1-2 the count to Ogilvie. High chopper over the mound behind second and through into center field. So Ogilvie singles, and I'll tell you something that Ron Romanek is doing, which is very dangerous for a pitcher's health. He is letting the leadoff man get on. 3 of the 4 innings. Molitor singled in the first. Robideau walked in the second. Ogilvie singles here in the fourth. And for Gene Mauch, he's been bobbing and weaving. The Brewers have left 5 men in 3 innings. Rob Deere called out on strikes in the second inning. Ogilvie is one of those fellows who doesn't figure to do any running. In fact, in the last 2 years, Ogilvie tried to steal 8 times, and he's 0 for 8. What was that grunt for?
Well, you could see Boone on that last shot, how he caught the ball. Didn't show the umpire the ball by the face open. He had the back of the glove, and you really couldn't tell where the strike zone was as he kind of moved his hand up a little bit. That was a classic example of trying to steal a pitch.
1 ball and no strikes. 1-1 to Rob Deere.
They used to teach you to catch the ball coming up, so the umpire could see it, but the way he's catching it, you're not sure of the strike zone because he's kind of hiding it.
1 ball and 1 strike. Putting a little pressure on the plate umpire, Greg Kost.
He must have seen that picture of you catching with the right
talk
hand.
of the game. Bottom of the fourth, no score. The Angels and the Brewers. The Angels have won 6 straight series. They lost to Seattle, and then they went on to win 6 straight. Then they came in here and lost last night. And the Angels are the only team in the majors not to have lost back-to-back games. 1-1. Line to left field. Base hit. Downing plays it on a hop. Ogilvie stops at second, and the Brewers are in business. First and second, and nobody out.
Second baseman, Randy Reddy.
Randy Reddy will be coming up. So Ron Romanek in trouble here. He's been looking at people on base all day. He has not been able to retire the side in order, and he's put Mauch with Marcel Latchman, the pitching coach, with the ringer a little bit. So Romanek working on Randy Reddy. Reddy's from San Mateo, California. He had personal highs in almost everything but home runs last year. He's not that kind of a hitter. I guess his biggest thrill, he went 5 for 5 against the Yankees in a game. Pickoff play, not in time, as Ogilvy, like Daddy Longlegs, goes back standing up.
Boone behind the plate likes to throw, so when they missed bunt, look for a possible throw from Boone to any base.
Rick Cerrone follows, and Reddy is bunting up on third. Good bunt. Picked up and thrown on a bounce in time, and Andy Etchebarren is going to be all over Rick Reed. He said he didn't have control of it, that he was bobbling the ball up around his chest. And the first base umpire said no, and now George Bamberg is going out to argue with Rick Reed.
I tell you, that was a beautiful bunt because Romanek looked like he was going to make the play, and he let it go between his legs. And the sensei could not watch this now. It's just a perfect bunt. The grass a little bit high, grabs it. Romanek thinks he's going to make a play. Now, the sensei does not have a good grip. Actually throws a palm ball over there. And Wilfong catches it against his chest, and the umpire behind the play, Reed.
Yeah, I don't know how he could see.
He did not see it.
No.
No way he could see it. He was out of position.
He sure was. The umpire is down the line. He couldn't tell what the first baseman was doing.
He's not even in the picture. That tells you something.
Yep. So Rick Reed has called it, and that's the way it will be. First base open, and Cerrone the hitter for a strike. 0-1. Sacrifice, advancing Deere to second and Ogilvy to third.
Wilfong made quite a play.
He's had one big year, and then after that, somebody just turned the tap off. He had 14 home runs in 1980, and he has accomplished that fact over the next 5 years. Out away, 0-2. No score, bottom of the fourth inning. The Brewers at second and third, and remember, they've stranded 5. They left the bases loaded in the third inning. Look at that. To Rick Cerrone. Ground ball to the right side. It is going to be plugged up by Wilfong to get him, and scoring is Ogilvy as Deere takes third. 1-0 Milwaukee. Let's go to Bill McAtee in New York.
All right, Ben, watch what just happened in Boston. Bottom of the third with Oakland leading 2-0. The shot by Dwight Evans will hit the tower. It should be a home run, but the call was that it hit the wall, so Evans is robbed of a home run. But Jim Rice, a few moments later, homered, so it is now 3-2 Boston. They're in the top of the fourth.
The batter here will be Paul Molitor. The Brewers leading 1-0. Rob Deere is at third with 2 down. They had a disputed call of a home run here last night. Charlie Moore hit his first home run in 2 years. And the Angels argued, but they lost the argument.
That was some argument, too. I asked Gene about that. And he said, the umpire said, I'll bet my house on it. I'll bet my house on it. Gene said, I got 2, 3 of them. Let's bet a couple hundred. What an argument.
1-1. Two down here in the fourth inning. Milwaukee 1, California 0. Molitor is 2 for 2, single to center in the first and again in the third. Strike. 1-2. Molitor, like Robin Yount, a first-round pick, he only spent a half a season in the minors, and he's been up here ever since. High fly ball to Gary Pettis. So the Brewers continue to lead people, but they do get a run and lead 1-0 at the end of 4. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Here's that disputed home run last night involving Charlie Moore. You can see the yellow pipe atop that little 1-foot screen. If the ball hits that pipe, it's a home run. But the ball doesn't hit the yellow pipe or orange. It's going to hit the white pipe below it. So here's Brian Downing fouling it away. And I can imagine Charlie Moore saying, that's great. I hit my first home run in 2 years, and a big argument over it. But you would think perhaps the Brewers would do something to make it a little easier for the umpires to call that kind of ball. 1-1 to count to Brian Downing.
Could fill that fence in, obviously, and it's not going to obstruct any of the vision for the bleacher fans.
2-1 to count. Downing, you see, has 5 home runs. Last year, he hit his 5th the 9th of July. He had his 5th this year with a week to go in April. In there. Good pitch. 2-2. Bill Wegman working on Brian Downing, Doug DeCinces, and Rupert Jones. Might have gone after a bad ball, but he got a piece of it and fouled it. Still 2-2.
Big breaking ball. Looks like it was out of the strike zone. We'll take a good look at it right here. Definitely out of the strike zone.
You know, it's funny. We were talking about, remember Pete Mickelson?
Yes.
He was a delightful pixie of a guy. He told me one time after a game he pitched in Houston that he made the perfect pitch, the pitch that he wanted to make in his entire career. We almost saw his perfect pitch then. Tell you in a second. 2-2. Hopper hit up the middle. Flagging it is Riles, and got him. Good play. Ball was not hit hard, and Downing took a little while to get down the line, and Ernest Riles nailed him.
He hit it kind of off the end of the bat, and Riles with a good arm, that's what made the play. He got something on his throw, even though he's off balance, and Downing tries to stretch it out, and I'm not so sure he didn't make it. You call this play. What do you think? I say safe. You say nothing.
No, why bother? It's
I
out.
say tomato.
It's in the book.
You say tomato.
Tomato.
Okay.
Strike. Mickelson's perfect pitch was a pitch that hit the hitter's elbow, bounced off and hit the catcher in the side of the neck, bounced up and hit the umpire under the chin. He said it was the greatest pitch he'd made in his career.
Got 3 guys.
Three guys
shot.
on one pitch. 1-1 to count to Doug DeCinces. He singled a right in the second inning. He's hitting 4 straight. And you know, you just saw Ernest Riles make that twisting off-balance throw to first. And he's going to have to make another one. And he can't. Recovers, throws, got him, and it's dropped at first. But it points up why Robin Yount can't play short anymore, having to twist and turn like that, and why he is much better off making the complete overhand throw from center field.
Right fielder,
They played that ball like it had a battery in it, and it was running on a battery. Riles butchered it, and it comes right back up to him, butchered. One hop, gets it, and Robideau drops it.
And he got the error.
Yep.
So with DeCinces at first, 1 out in the 5th, 1-0 in favor of Milwaukee. Rupert Jones hit into a double play in the second inning. 1 run, 4 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 4 hits for the Angels. High drive, hooking into deep right center field. Deere and Yount in pursuit. It's against the wall. Rear hurrying the ball back in, and the relay to the plate is a good throw. Randy Reddy made a perfect throw, receiving the toss from right fielder Rob Deere.
DeCinces lost that play between second and third. He was coming all the way, but he just didn't have it, and the relay is a perfect one to Reddy. And I mean, it's not even close. Cerrone's got plenty of time to block the plate and wait for DeCinces. Here's where he loses it, right there. He's digging as hard as he can go, but the suction cups on the shoes are catching him.
After this play, and it might be because of the slide, but DeCinces limped noticeably going into the Angel dugout. So with 1 out, they sent him in. Look at Reddy. He is really at the ready. A perfect throw to Cerrone.
Oh, that's room service. Look how easily he can block that plate, protect the ball. Here's DeCinces. Right here is where he loses it. You can see he's not hitting full stride. He's looking, and he says, I'm going to try to score, but he wasn't really gunning.
So DeCinces is burned, trying to score from first on the double by Rupert Jones. Rupert takes third on the throw to the plate. It's still 1-0 Milwaukee. Dick Schofield, who had an infield single in the third inning. Right, 0-2. Well, we mentioned that one of the things Bamberger had to do is tighten up the defense. The Brewers leading the league in unearned runs allowed last year. And you can already see they executed very well on that double.
They lined it up well. I mean, the relay people.
So Bamberger has to be happy about that play. Now the strike 2 pitch to Schofield. 1-2. We're in the top of the fifth. 1-0 Milwaukee. Tying run at third for the Angels.
Seeing Etchebarren over there next to Bamberger, and we were talking about it before the game, the near tragic fire in spring training, which Tony Muser is still out.
And it's a little looper, and it's going to fall. Base hit. That gets the run home, Jones. And we have a brand new ball game, 1-1. So Schofield just hits a little, I was going to say dying quail, but for him we'll say a dying duck.
Tony Muser, one of the coaches who was injured in that fire, they expect him to join the club May 9th, 10th, and 11th when the Brewers got to California. So we'd be glad to see Tony come back.
Herm Starrett, the pitching coach, and he was seriously burned. Thank the good Lord he's back here.
Larry Haney talking about it, he said he looked down, his arm was on fire. Etchebarren. And they said of all the guys, it was Muser who had the greatest sense of humor. They have a song here. I'll tell you about it in a minute. They have a song here, Brewers Turn the Heat Up. And when Muser was laying down, I mean, he was burned. He said they can take that song and forget about it. What a sense of humor. What a guy. And we're so glad he's coming back.
Popped it up. Around the plate, Rick Cerrone is calling. Coming down is Molitor. And they look at each other. And apparently Cerrone must have heard Molitor saying, take it, and he misunderstood what he said.
That's exactly what happened. You could hear Molitor holler, take it, and that's just not good. It's either I got it. It's never take it. He's got it all the way here. Now he hears the voice, and then he loses it.
When I was trying to play ball in college, we had a shortstop, and the ball was hit in the air, and he said, I got it, and he caught it, came in, and our coach said, young man, you're representing an educational institution. You don't say, I got it. You say, I have it.
I have it.
Have it.
I see.
So the next time there was a pop fly, and he started to say, I got it, and then he tried to switch to I have it, and while he was making up his mind, he dropped the ball.
Grammatically, he was correct.
Yeah, right. 1-1 to count to Bob Boone. It's a 1-1 tie in the fifth inning. The Angels a run on a half a dozen hits, and Milwaukee a run, 4 hits, and 2 errors. Now let's see what Boone does. In the old days, not too many years ago, you wouldn't pin an error on Cerrone until you saw what Boone did. The error was always after the fact. In other words, if Boone makes out, they say, well, he didn't capitalize on it. We won't give you an error. But now they call it immediately. You're stuck with the error no matter what.
I think that's wrong.
2-1. Well, I always did like that idea. Not that we need another category for statistics, but I've always liked that team error conflict. Right. And the idea of Molitor hollering when he shouldn't have, that's a team error. You see Boston leading Oakland in the 4th, and Seattle doing the same with Toronto. 2-2 to Bob Boone. And he drives it to left, hooking down the line, going foul and out of play.
You're talking about Pixie guys, right?
Yeah.
Remember Pete Castellone?
Oh, sure.
A lot of times on the foul ball that went up, you know what he'd holler?
No.
It's up there. It's up there.
Ron Fairley is here broadcasting for the Angels. He was a rookie first baseman with the bases loaded for the Dodgers. High pop fly. Jim Gilliam kind of ambled over next to him and said, don't get hurt. Fouled away. 2-2. 1-1 in the 5th inning.
Don't get
hurt. Boone flied to left in the 3rd. Boone's a remarkable player. If he catches 100 games this year, he is going to become the 4th on the all-time list of catchers. And even though he's the oldest catcher in the majors, He led the American League in games played and starts behind the plate. Quite a guy. 2-2. And he promptly just lays the bat on the ball. That's one of those perfect swings to illustrate that old phrase. He didn't really take a big rip. He just met it. That's the way Schofield hit his ball to right. You don't have to hit him that hard as long as they drop. Watch this swing.
He's just trying to get a piece of it to avoid striking out. He didn't even hold the bat. He literally threw the bat at the ball and it drops in there. It's one of those that the pitcher starts mumbling to himself, too, when it drops in for a base hit.
Well, here in the inning with 1 out, you had DeCinces reach on an error. Then you had Jones double to right center, DeCinces out at the plate. Schofield a dunker to right to score Jones, and now Boone a little flare to center. So you've had 3 consecutive hits, and here's Gary Pettis. Flied to center and struck out and takes a strike. 0-1.
Gene Monken, talking about why he strikes out so much, he says what Pettis does, he umpires and then hits. He says you can't do that. You got to hit and then umpire. What he means by that is he sees a pitch and he says, I think that's a strike, and then he swings. So he's got to be just a little quicker.
0-1. 0-2. Last year, he was a much better hitter. Right-handed. He was about 50 points higher than left-handed. And, of course, ask not for whom the bell tolls. He's also not an extra base hitter. He qualified for the batting title last year with at-bats, and he only had 19 extra base hits. He and Bobby Meacham. 1-2. Last year, Pettis up there at the plate, and Gene Mauch saw him strike out 125 times. Well, that's okay if you take the pitcher deep a lot, but not when you're a slap hitter. And he slaps it to short, Riles to ready, and that's it. So the Angels make a lot of noise. They wind up with 3 hits and an error, but only 1 run. And at the end of 4 1/2, a 1-1 tie. DeCinces thrown out at the plate. Once again, we'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of this ball game. And, of course, he hopes someday maybe he'll win that honor. Ernest Riles, Cecil Cooper, and Robin Yount. 1-1 tie, bottom of the 5th inning.
Not to belabor the point, but as you see our center field shot occasionally, watch Booney behind the plate, how he kind of maneuvers that body in and out.
0-1. Fly ball to left field, and Downing on his horse. It's in the alley, and he makes the catch. We mentioned Downing the last 2 years has not made an error. He has become an outstanding outfielder, and he really had to go and get it.
He has made himself a good ball player, and he makes a good play on this one. Riles, I tell you, talked about that decathlon show, which, by the way, will be on May 25th. You'll see good natural ability being tested with high-tech equipment, but Riles showed great power in that show.
Well, here's Cecil Cooper now. Ball 1, 1-0. He had elbow surgery in the offseason. Coop last year was hitting over 300 with a week to go. And then I guess the elbow and the pain just got to be too much. He went 0 for his last 22 at-bats. So you look at his year-end average, it was under 300. The New York Mets, who had an 11-game streak knocked off, now turning around and trying to build another one, giving Pete Rose a bad time, 2-0. We'll be at Shea Stadium next week to see the Reds and the Mets. And the Yankees coming back to lead Texas. Texas shut them out last night.
Center fielder, Robin Yount.
So Cecil Cooper is at first with 1 out, and Robin Yount hit into a force play and walk coming up. 1-1, bottom of the 5th. One ball and no strikes. Brewers getting at least 1 man on base in every inning. They've stranded 6 in the first 4 innings, including the bases loaded. Ron Romanek, who is 6-1 lifetime with the Brewers. He beat them 4 times without a loss last year. His favorite team. 2-0, the count to Robin. Tom Treblehorn coaching at third, and Yount taking a look down there.
If you gave him the take sign right now, you'd see Yount just faint. Dead faint.
Yount is the perfect number 2 hitter. Not so much a perfect number 4 hitter. But Bamberger doing the best he can with what he has. Little roller to third. DeCinces right on the chalk. Gets him, and down to second goes Cooper.
But, you know, you talk about perfect number 2 hitters, perfect number 4 hitters. You look at the box scores. Steve Sachs batting third. Clint Hurdle batting fourth. And catching.
Yeah, it's well, again, you get back to you do the best with what you have. Billy Joe Robideau walked and flied to center. He had a big chance to be a hero in the third inning. Came up with the bases loaded and 2 out and flied out to Gary Pettis. One thing about the Brewers, you know, they have never been an average ball club. For the last 16 years, they've been at least 10 games above 500 or 10 games below 500. You can't take them for granted.
It'll be an interesting time at bat here because he's Romanic's got an option here who he wants to pitch to, whether it would be Robideau and Ogilvy. First base is open.
0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. And on deck, there's Ben Ogilvy, who has flied to right and singled to center. Change. It's a 3-fingered change. 2 balls and 1 strike to count. Romanek also, when he's throwing a change now, he started doing it about 4 games ago. He throws a split-fingered changeup.
That is the pitch of the 80s. The split finger, whatever.
Usually fastball, but with him, the change. There was one, I think. The bottom seemed to drop out of it. Ball 3, 3-1. Marcel Latchman, the pitching coach of the Angels. Informative, delightful man. 3-1 to count. Billy Joe Robideau. 1-1 tie in the 5th. Ground ball to the right side to Wilfong. Over to Joyner. So that's another man left. At the end of 5, it's 1-1. And today we're proud to begin a special new feature on NBC's Game of the Week, highlighting some of baseball's unique personalities, characters of the game. A little Germanic or Teutonic touch here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. Girls and boys in their lederhosen. The sound of music.
That's right.
The Trapp family cleaning the infield here in County Stadium. There's Rob Wilfong. Ball 1. Wilfong, Joyner, and Jackson in a 1-1 tie in the 6th.
Wegman has made 66 pitches, 39 pitches in the first 4, and he's 26 pitches in the 5th inning alone, and now 2 here.
1-1 to count. Well, let's see. John Butcher the other day, 170-some-odd pitches in his game. There's a drive into right field. Base hit for Wilfong. He's 2 for 3. Well, Wilfong has really been hot now in the last 5 games. Why he's playing second base today.
Wally Joyner.
And Wally Joyner coming up. The Angels have 8 hits, but only 1 run. Had 1 man thrown out of the plate. Joyner flied to left, hit into a force play. He is hit in 7 straight. Ball 1. Waiting his turn on deck. And, of course, each time he comes out on deck, it's like having the leading man just outside the curtain, waiting to perform. Reggie Jackson waiting for perhaps a most meaningful at-bat.
He's one of those guys that when he gets in the batter's box, he's in scoring position.
Oh, sure. I'll bring up something I bet you remember. I bet you Reggie remembers. 1 ball and no strikes, the count to Wally Joyner. Ball 2. 17 years ago, Reggie Jackson was the star of the Game of the Week He hit a home run in Minnesota. I think they estimated it 550 feet. Then later in the year, he had a 10 RBI game in Boston, and that was on the Game of the Week. Here he is again, lights on. The runner going, the throw down to Riles. They get him. So Wilfong is thrown out as Cerrone nails his second man. He got Schofield in the third inning. I guess a busted play.
That's 10 of 22 for Cerrone, and I mean, he makes a perfect throw. Easy ball to handle. Look at this. He has to wait for the runner. Infielders love that.
2-1 to count to Joyner. In there, 2-2.
That was a busted play on that last replay. Yeah. You could see the base runner, Wilfong, looking to see what's happening with the batter. Anytime you see that, that's a hit-and-run play. That's not run and hit.
Yeah, Wilfong going on a 2-0 pitch. That thing came apart at the seams. So 3-2 the count. So the Angels probably muttering to themselves a little bit. Wilfong stole 4 bases last year, so you know he's not that much of a threat, and that ball has got a chance. It's gone. So right after what appeared to be a missed sign and Wilfong is erased, Joyner hits a home run, and it makes it 2-1 California, and that gives Joyner 7 home runs, and that equals the output at first base for home runs by Carew, Beniquez, Sconiers, and Grich all last year.
Looked like a low fastball. It is, and I mean, he just goes down, gets it, and he really follows that thing. He's looking at it. He knows it's got a chance, and boom, out of here. What a swing.
So Wally Joyner hits it out to make it 2-1 California, and now here's Reggie. Last year, he hit 5 home runs against Milwaukee. He has hit 28 home runs in his career at County Stadium. That's the most in any American League park where he wasn't a home player, like at New York, Oakland, Baltimore, and Anaheim. So we'll see if he can get the most out of this at-bat. And he goes the other way and squirts it foul. 0-1 to Reggie Jackson. There's a reason why at coming up 40, he is still quite a threat. Did he work hard in the offseason? In fact, it makes you tired just to read what he did. He hit out on the hands. Ground ball to Reddy, and he'll get him. Reggie in the offseason did 25 60-yard sprints, 9 minutes of jumping rope, a half-a-mile run, 1,200 sit-ups a day, and weightlifting.
He really hurries down that line. He's digging hard. He didn't give up on the ball.
You know, one of the contributions he made to the Angels right at the very start of the season was when Wally Joyner, the kid, didn't run hard down to first base. And he went over to Joyner after the at-bat and said, are you okay? And the kid said, yeah. He said, did you hurt yourself? He said, no. How come you didn't run? He said, always run, as he calls it, run through the bag. He said, it looks good, if nothing else. And you saw a perfect example. He was jammed, and he ran through the bag. Reggie Jackson. Darwin and McClure loosening up in the Milwaukee bullpen. McClure, the left-hander.
Reggie told Gene Mauch after last season, he said, I didn't have the kind of a year that I wanted to have. He said, but I'm going to have it. I'm going to prepare myself to be a designated hitter. I don't know how I'm going to go about it, but I'm going to be ready.
Strike. 3-1. There they are. Behind that screen. 3-1 to Brian Downing. 2 down in the 6th inning. 2-1 Angels. You know what Joyner did when he got his first base hit of the year? He hollered for the ball. And they got the ball. And when he came in the dugout, the veterans really chewed him out. They said, hey, look, kid, we'll holler for the ball. You just keep your mouth closed and you play. Let me ask you something. When you got your first hit in the big leagues, did you holler for the ball?
No. Got down on my knees and said, thank you for answering my prayers.
Yeah, they really got all over him. But, of course, you can do that with a kid with his tremendous talent. You know you're not going to break his spirit. 3-2. Downing cue balled right off the end of the bat. And that's that. So the Angels should have had 2, but they only got 1 because Wilfong was thrown out on what might have been a missed sign. At the end of 5 1/2, 2-1 California. Well, Reggie figures to have at least 1 more at bat in this ball game. Still looking for the one to catch Mantle. It'll be Ben Oglivie, Rob Deere, and Randy Reddy in the 6th inning. 2-1 in favor of the Angels, and that's popped up. And who's going to handle it? Schofield.
Right fielder.
1 down, and Rob Deere coming up. Rob Deere struck out and single to left. Off speed with that breaking ball. 1 ball and no strikes to count. Hits it to third. DeCinces gobbles it up. 2 down. The Angels were on a tough road trip going to Toronto the other night, the concluding game of the series with the Blue Jays. A night game in Toronto, the end of April, beginning of May, and there was a 43-mile-an-hour wind. It was bitter. And then last night, it was not exactly tropical here in Milwaukee. Ball 1. 2 down in the 6th. 2-1 Angels. Randy Reddy made a contribution. He made that perfect relay to the plate to get to DeCinces.
Nothing else, Ben. Both these pitchers very impressive throwing strikes.
Ball 2, 2-1. It's always a better game when you see pitchers throw strikes.
Defense has to be better because they're ready for every ball to be hit. Romanek has only walked 2 and Wegman none.
2 balls and 1 strike to Randy Reddy. Fouled away. Sounds like a name that is either in a comic strip or in a serial on television, you know? Randy Reddy.
The Adventures of Randy Reddy.
I knew a fella named Larry Lawrence. He played football at Lawrenceville and scored touchdowns, and the Times used to carry the headline, Larry Lawrence of Lawrenceville. For real. 2-2. Just missed.
I like your favorite name, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's a classic.
I wish he had made it. The world should have gotten to know him. Ground ball hard. Backhanded by DeCinces behind the bag to get him. Fine play. So the Brewers are gone in the 6th, first time. And at the end of 6, 2-1 California, after these messages from your local.
Third baseman, Doug DeCinces.
Here's that last play by DeCinces, and watch this last hop. He's going to make, whoops, a little bit of a bad hop. And immediately comes to mind Frank Crosetti, who was the Yankees and coached for so many years. Anybody can catch a good hop. The good players play the bad hops. And there's a good player playing the bad hop.
And now here he is at the plate. Single to right and was aboard on the error, but thrown out at the plate. Hard foul outside of third, 0-1.
I have 2 questions to ask you. First of all, what is the classic name?
There was a player in the Dodger organization years ago. He had 3 names. His first name was Flaggett. His middle name was Grover, and his last name Zunk, Z-U-N-K. 1-1.
And my other question is, Cal Ripken, you started to make a point.
Well, we were talking about consecutive games. And, of course, Dale Murphy's game is still consecutive, even though he has 9 stitches in his hand. And Ripken made a point about consecutive games. He said, that's not really what it's all about, Ball 2. He said, after all, you play a full season, 162 games, and then you're off 6 months. There's no big deal about playing 162. But he said, and this is the point, a lot of guys make a token appearance in a game and keep the streak alive. Ball 3. So that if Dale Murphy pinch hits and comes out, his game is alive. If Steve Garvey did it, his game is alive. Ripken said, no, it should be consecutive innings. Now you find out who's playing. And Ripken's streak is like 5,600 consecutive innings.
Good point.
Now you're talking. 3-1 to DeCinces. Ground ball to the left of Riles. Up with it on the grass. Too late. Infield single for DeCinces. He's 2 for 3. And Wegman now has allowed 10 hits.
Riles has really shown great range this afternoon, and with that range, he's shown a real good arm. This is a tough play. He gets over there, covers a lot of ground, makes the play. Got pretty good stuff on his throw, but DeCinces able to beat it out. That's not an easy play by any means.
So DeCinces, 2 for 3. Riles, a busy man down there at shortstop. And the batters, Rupert Jones, hit into a double play and doubled. The Brewers have come up with 2 double plays behind Wegman. In the 2nd inning on Jones. In the 4th inning on Jackson. And they also made a play to get DeCinces at the plate in the 5th inning. Darwin and McClure up again. McClure, the left-hander. 1 ball and no strikes. In the dirt. Good save by Cerrone. Ball 2. 2-0.
Not only a good save, but he really catches that ball, and he's ready to throw. Had DeCinces taken 2 steps off first, he'd have fired it. And he comes up with that ball fairly clean, and he was ready to gun it. That makes your ball club look good.
And how? And he's already thrown out a couple of runners. You see on his sleeve, S-U-L-L-Y, Sully? We can tell you about that. He's wearing that in the memory of Bob Sullivan, the former Brewers equipment manager who passed away last October. Doug DeCinces at first. Nobody out here in the 7th inning. California 2, Milwaukee 1. Wegman, as Joe pointed out, making a lot of pitches. And giving up 10 hits, but only 2 runs.
He better be bearing down on this batter, 2-0.
Schofield on deck. So he's over the 90 mark, starting the 7th inning, which is not too bad. And Schofield, were you with us at the start of the game when Schofield couldn't get that leaded donut off his bat? That's really a great moment. That should be sent to Cooperstown. Two to Rupert. In high school, Rupert played in the same outfield with Claudell Washington, who is scrambling around for the Braves against Philadelphia today. 2-2. Two runs, 10 hits for the Angels. 1 run, 4 hits for Milwaukee. We're in the top of the 7th. So Rupert has just stopped hitting since the middle of last year. And with 1 out, the batter is Dick Schofield.
It's a good fastball. Looked like Rupert was just trying to foul it off to stay alive. It tails off to the outside part of the plate. He doesn't get a piece of it. You have to be alive for a play here because they'd like to stay away from that double play, which would end the inning and get Boone up there.
Moose Stubbing, the third base coach, perhaps hanging out a sign for Schofield. Fouled away. The poet, T.S. Eliot, said April is the cruelest month, but for Dick Schofield, last year May was a killer. He hit about $150 in May last year, but he's starting off right, 2 for 2 today.
Why would T.S. Eliot say that? Did he have a bad month?
I guess so. He had trouble getting going.
Couldn't hit the curveball, huh? They were curving him early, right out of spring training.
0-1. 7th inning, 2-1, California. To Ducky. We mentioned earlier his dad, who played for 19 years, is here taking in the ball game. And for at least 3 times, to our knowledge, that his dad has come to see his son play, young Dick has hit a home run. Ground ball wide at third. Molitor down to Reddy. Too late at first. 5-4 force play to bring up Boone.
You really have to be impressed with this Wegman and this Milwaukee pitching staff. As we watch the double play, it looked like it was going to be a routine double play. Wegman has just been in control. He's had command of his pitches. And George Bamberger would like to go with a 4-man rotation. And that's what he wants all year. And I love when he talks about pitchers saying, well, I can't pitch because I have tendinitis. He's got a definition for that.
Boone flied out and singled way out in front of that pitch. 0-1.
George says that tendinitis is what a pitcher has after he got smoked the last time out. He's a simple guy, George.
And, of course, he was a pitcher.
He doesn't fool around. He tells it the way it exactly happens.
Bob Boone flied out in the third and then singled in the 5th inning. 2-1 Angels. Top of the 7th, holding at first is Schofield, held on by Robideau. The Angels, we talked about the Brewers and their injuries in the dirt. The Angels, of course, lost John Candelaria, surgery. Gary Lucas on the DL, the left-hander. Urbano Lugo has been unable to play. And even though he's in the bullpen, Terry Forster has a tight spot back of his left shoulder. 1-1, the count to Bob Boone. Popped it up, and it's around second base, and it'll be the shortstop, Ernest Ryle. So a base hit and nothing else. The Angels lead 1 at the end of 6.5, 2-1 California. And now, here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch.
Gatorade Thirst Quencher presents the 7th inning stretch. Gatorade is thirst aid for that deep down body thirst. In Atlanta, the Braves have a ball player who set the National League on fire in recent years. But in his first full season with Atlanta, he batted only .226. Since then, he's become an All-American hero. Can you name him? Dale Murphy of the Atlanta Braves brings a hard-working spirit to everything he does. Looming large in the Braves lineup, Murphy was voted the league's MVP in '82 and '83. And in the last 4 seasons, Murph has averaged 36 home runs and 110 runs batted in. With his all-out, all-the-time style, 30-year-old Dale Murphy of the Atlanta Braves has a tight hold on greatness.
You're looking at Richard Paul Burleson, better known as Rooster. He came back from almost the impossible. Last year, he didn't play an inning. He had separated his right shoulder in December of '84 lifting weights. Initially had torn a rotator cuff and then re-torn it in March of '84. And the other night hit a home run against Doyle Alexander, his first in 4 years. He's back and playing so very, very well. And boy, we're happy to see that.
Yes, we are. And when, just reminded me, looking at him, he's hitting .349, and George Hendrick is hitting .360, and they're both on the bench.
Yep.
So
the reclamation project.
Yeah. He's got some help on that bench.
Well, it's still 2-1 Angels. We're in the bottom of the 7th, and Rick Cerrone starting off. A fly ball into right center field. Pettis had a good jump on the ball. Makes it easily. 1 away. Romanek has allowed 4 hits, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. He is not a strikeout pitcher anyway.
Third baseman, Paul.
Well, Cerrone flies out, and that'll bring up Molitor. Having only walked 2 in 6 innings, Romanek right around the plate, so Cerrone first ball swinging. Romanek earlier this year had a 2-hit shutout against Oakland. Molitor twice singled to center, but in the 4th inning, with a runner at third, made the last out on a fly ball to center. Fouled away. 0-1. Ron Romanek trying to get the Angels on track and trying to make sure they do not lose back-to-back games for the first time this year. 0-1. as they call him here. We were talking about Burleson coming back. Molitor had to come back. In May of '84, he had a tendon moved from his left arm to his right to replace the medial collateral ligament. His career was in jeopardy, but he came back and had a big '85. I'm glad to see those fellas come fighting back off the injured list. High chopper. DeCince's going to have to hurry his throw. Off balance. Got him. Oh, what a fine play.
That was. He really had to throw that ball hard because he could do nothing until it came down. He couldn't jump or anything else. Watch him. He had to brace himself, and there he does it. And I mean, he really throws it hard and just does get him. He's made some fine plays there.
Boy, he turns him in. Doug DeCince. DeCince is so valuable. He's had a history of back trouble. He'll be 36 in August, so the Angels hope that he can stay well all year. There's a drive to center. Pettis fading is there now. Easy inning for Romanek, and for the second inning in a row, he retires the side in order, and that's 8 in a row gone down. At the end of 7, 2-1, California. Mark Clear blowing bubble. He has the only save on the Milwaukee staff. If he ever gets sharp control, he could really become an outstanding relief pitcher. He averages almost 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. That would be number 3 among the active pitchers, but his trouble is his walk rate is the highest. Fly ball to left might be trouble. Coming up is Ogilvie to put it away. 1 down.
One other problem he has, too, Vin, is that when base runners are on, he's a relief pitcher. They're usually on. He doesn't pay that much attention to them, and away they go. It's very difficult to throw anybody out with him pitching.
That is quite an area, the bullpen in center field, where you're almost looking straight into home plate.
You always worried about that bullpen when you were playing here for stealing signs. It'd be a very simple thing for somebody to stand right by that wall there, watch the game, and just have a towel around his neck.
Or take your hat off or something.
And that would be the signal.
A little looper, and Riles will flag it on the run. Nice play by Ernest. The ball wasn't hit hard, but he had to run it down.
First baseman.
So quickly, 2 out, top of the 8th inning. It is 2-1 California. The difference, a home run by Wally Joyner in the 6th inning. This telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Joyner 1 for 3, and he might have gone from the doghouse to the penthouse, maybe. Remember, in the 6th inning, Wilfong singled. The count went to 2 balls and no strikes. Wilfong was going. Joyner looked at a strike, and Cerrone hung Wilfong out to dry. And then Joyner eventually hit one over the right center field wall for a home run. Well, look at those numbers. Wally World. Ball 1. His wife was an All-American gymnast at BYU. Athletic family. Little ground ball to the right side. That's the kind of a ball you'd expect him to hit to left field, but he tried to pull it, and he was an easy out. So they're gone in order are the Angels at the end of 7.5, 2-1 California.
The Brewers and Angels.
A reminder coming up next, the richest tournament on the PGA Tour, the Panasonic Las Vegas Classic Invitational. Over $1 million in total prize money, over $200,000 to the winner. And remember, they play 90 holes, 5 rounds, and today is the 4th round. Coming up next week, we'll be going to Shea Stadium in New York to see the Reds and the New York Mets. Others will see the Padres and the Cubs at 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Cecil Cooper, a strike. Cooper, Yount, and Robideau. 8 in a row retired by Ron Romanek. One and one. The paid attendance today, 16,481. 16,481. 2-1 to count. In thinking about the Reds and all of their problems, with a great quote in the paper where Rose said, "I don't understand what's happening. The players don't understand what's happening. And Marge Schott won't understand what's happening, and she's the boss." I love that.
How about Shotzi? I don't, they don't, she won't.
2-2. And strike 3 call to Cooper. So Romanek picks up his 3rd strikeout. That's 9 in a row he's retired since the walk to Cooper in the 5th inning.
Very impressive, young Romanek. Watch Booney as he gets set. Notice how he was inside, leaned back out, outside part of the plate, and just holds that ball right there.
So Romanek getting closer now as he looks in at Robin Yount, who was hit into a force play, walked, and grounded out. Yount with an 8-game hitting streak.
Campanella was like that, Vin. You saw him more than I did. I played against him. Nobody ever looked wild.
Yeah. I remember when Jeff Torborg, coach with the Yankees, first came up. He was a Joe College rah-rah kind of catcher, and the pitchers had to say to him, "Hey,
settle down.
Easy." And boy, did he settle down. Ball 3. And the years go by, and I can hear Jeff now saying to young catchers in the Yankee organization, "Easy, take your time." Here's a perfect guy to study, Bob Boone.
Some guys catch the ball like they got a pair of pliers in their hands. Other guys they just fondle it. They could catch an egg.
3-0 to Robin. And he draws his 2nd walk, and that breaks the spell. After retiring 9 in a row, Romanek walks his 3rd batter. And now, for the 2nd time with a chance to be a hero, Billy Joe Robidoux.
Billy Joe Robidoux.
I tell you, I'm glad Bacabella's not playing here. We'd never get out of this ballpark. But the way that got Robidoux.
Billy Joe walked in the 2nd inning, came up with the bases loaded in the 3rd and 2 out and flied out. A runner at 2nd in the 5th inning and grounded out. That's off the glove of Romanek and no play. They are going to give Billy Joe a base hit.
Ball wasn't hit that hard. It comes right back at you, and you're about 55 feet from home plate, so that ball looks like it's coming back pretty hard. He deflects it, thought he had it, and, of course, loses the play once it gets behind him. So he's in a bit of a jam now, and the base on balls. I'll tell you, base on balls in that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning usually means trouble.
For the first time since the 4th inning, the Brewers have 2 men on base. They have Yount at 2nd, Robidoux at 1st, and Ben Ogilvie at the plate. 2-1 Angels. Bottom of the 8th inning. Strike. California 2 runs, 10 hits. Milwaukee 1 run, 5 hits. And Gene Mauch sweating out another 1-run game with the Brewers. Fly ball to right field. In fact, Jones is going to have to come up. And the runners hold. So Ogilvie was out in front of it. And a lazy fly ball. That'll bring up Rob Deere. We mentioned at the start of the game last year, the Angels won 9 out of 12 from the Brewers. 6 of those wins were by 1 run. They lost a 1-run game last night, 5-4, and the Angels are leading a 1-run game today, 2-1. Now, that's an interesting thing about this kid, Rob Deere. Donnie Moore gets up down in the Angel pen. Strike. Well, Romanek coming right after the hitters after he kind of pitched too carefully to Robin Yount, if there be such a thing. There's Donnie Moore, who once played for the Milwaukee Brewers. In fact, Moore has been teammates of some of the great relief pitchers, Willie Hernandez, Bruce Sutter, and Rollie Fingers. Oh, that wasn't much of a swing. He was really fooled on that pitch.
He thought it was a curveball. He started to go down after the curveball, and the fastball was by him, so it was just kind of a token swing is what it was. That was really not a swing.
Nope. So at second base, Robin Yount representing the tying run. Roby Doe at first. 1-2 to Rob Deere.
So the game is on the bases, and Rob Deere's got the kind of power. 2 strikes, they went outside with the pitch. It's interesting to follow how Boone and Romanek will work on Deere.
Well, a strikeout hitter, and he strikes out for the second time. No runs, 1 hit, 2 left, and at the end of 8, 2-1 California.
Remember, the count was 2 strikes and 1 ball. The pitch was outside the one before, and he goes for the outside corner again. Watch the reaction of Romanek as he really got that ball in a good spot. It was out of the strike zone, close enough to swing. Deere goes out, but even if he would have taken that pitch, it'd have been set up perfectly for the 2-2 pitch. Great piece of pitching.
Well, now in the 9th inning, it is 2-1 California. Romanek always pitches well against California, against Milwaukee. He is 6-1 lifetime. His only loss was 1-0. He has a 5-game winning streak against Milwaukee. Well, Reg, you got your last opportunity, it would appear, to catch Mantle on the game of the week anyway.
It looks like they're going to try to keep that ball away from Reggie. Those 2 pitches were on the outside part of the plate. A tough ball to pull.
1-1. Foul back. Jackson has flied to right, grounded into a double play, and grounded out. Now back.
Well, they outside, and they came high and tight. You can see Cerrone's glove. They're making no bones about it where they're going to pitch him.
In the 6th inning, they jammed him. And, of course, Cerrone, a ex-Yankee, been thinking with and against Reggie for a while. 1-2. 2-2.
The 2 pitches he missed were outside. The one he fouled off was high and tight. It'd be interesting to see where Cerrone goes, because Reggie, even with 2 strikes, chance to get that big home run, maybe trying to guess one here.
Looked like it was not the kind of pitch he wanted anyway.
I think he was looking for the ball up and in, man.
The location really fooled him because it was down and away, and he couldn't pull back.
He's just trying to foul it off is what he's trying to do. And that's not that good Reggie Jackson swing. Watch it. Looks like he's looking for the ball up and in, and he sees it down there. He said, well, I got to foul it off. He just tried to just stay alive.
I think it was just a case of trying too hard. A little slice of humility while we talk about in pursuit of Mantle. Keep everything in the proper perspective. Here's Brian Downing. Single to left, grounded to short, hit back to the box. Brian is 1 for 3. 2-1 Angels. Top of the 9th inning. If you're looking ahead, Dua, Randy Reddy, Rick Cerrone, and Paul Molitor. And I saw Jim Gantner over near the bat rack. George Bamberger said he would only use Gantner in an emergency. And they're close enough to an emergency to have Gantner go to the rack. 2-1. A shot right by a diving Molitor and down the line. Over to get it is Ogilvie. On his way for 2 is Downing, and he's in there standing. So this could be a big at-bat now for DeCinces and Jones to give Romanek the extra run in the 9th inning. That's the 11th hit, but only 2 runs of Wegman. Molitor never had a chance.
He knocked one down earlier, but that one he had no chance.
He knocked Schofield's ball down in the 3rd, kept him to a single. But that one, that was an echo. So the muscle man, Brian Downing at second with 1 out, and Doug DeCinces. Single to right, a board on an error thrown out at the plate, and single to short. He's 2 for 3. Punched it to the hole, and it gets right by Reddy into right field. And here comes Downing to score, and that's a big run. Remember, DeCinces singled to right to send Downing to third in the second inning. And now he takes Wegman the other way again and gets the run home. 3-1 Angels.
Reddy thought he had that ball. He just bounced right over his glove. The artificial surface, he gets a truer bounce, but here, you have to play that ball right into your glove.
At least he has to knock it down. He can't let it get through. That's that old sign you give, the catchers give. They stand up and they flap their arms like they're trying to fly when they're telling the infielders just knock the ball down. And that's Reddy should have at least prevented the ball from going through, and they're going to give him an error. So that's the third Milwaukee error. I think the error was more for letting the ball get through than it was for anything else.
Well, reaching one hand, he should have been in front of the ball, as you say, to knock it down, and I think the scorer takes that into consideration.
So Wegman pitching a tough game. He has allowed 11 hits. The Brewers have committed 3 errors back of him, and the big guy has hung tough. He has not walked a batter. He's still seeking his #1 win for this year. And Ogilvy trying to run that one down on the track and picks it off. And hustling back comes DeCinces. So Jones a long out to left. 2 down, and Dick Schofield will be coming up. You know, Wegman, by the way, we were talking earlier about George Bamberger saying he's going to stay with a 4-man rotation. Wegman will be the first of the starters pitching with 3 days rest. It didn't work out previously because of off days. So he's the first one to go to the well. Schofield, an infield single, hit a flare to right for a base hit and a run batted in, and hit into a force play. So Dick is 2 for 3 with an RBI. 3-1 California. And to repeat, Reddy, Cerrone, and Molitor are due up in the bottom of the 9th. 1-1. Ground ball to the right side. Reddy is there. Over to Robideau, but the run is in. A double by Downing and the error charge to Reddy. Big run it is. 3-1 Angels at the end of 8 1/2. You're looking at 23-year-old William Edward Wegman, born in Cincinnati. Remember the great pitcher, you certainly remember the name Ray Scarborough, and Milwaukee has the Ray Scarborough Award. They give it to the outstanding young player. And Wegman won it 2 years ago. Billy Joe Robideau won it last year. And Wegman certainly didn't do anything today to diminish the award, nor the fact that he received it. He pitched hard and tough, charged with 3 runs. Meanwhile, Romanek, who always gives the Brewers a bad time, is doing just that. Teddy Higuera has 2 complete games. Wegman now is going to have the only other one. And Randy Reddy starting it off. And he hits it to left center field and sinking, and Pettis is going to have to run it down at the track. Reddy is to second base, and they'll hold him there. So that error by Reddy that meant a run is really a big play, as Jim Gantner is out on deck to hit for Cerrone.
Just couldn't find the handle. Plugged the gap perfectly.
So a double by Randy Reddy. And here is Jim Gantner. Gantner's a little banged up. He has a pulled muscle behind the knee, and then what really nailed him the other night, Jose Rio, who can really fire, the young right-hander for the Oakland A's, nailed him on the elbow. He's had the elbow drained. He's missed 2 games. And now here he is in an emergency as a pinch hitter.
Romanek lists Gantner as one of the toughest guys to face as far as he's concerned. And when you look at the stats, he's only 2 for 21.
The interesting thing about Gantner is you see Marcel Latchman going out there. I don't think pitchers, and certainly pitching coaches, would want to bring a left-hander in against Gantner. It's interesting to point out for Gantner last year, he hit .329 against left-handers and then fell off almost, well, over 100 points against right-handers. And Donnie Moore is going to be brought in to get him. A former Brewer will pick up for Ron Romanek, who went 8 innings plus, can't lose. He leaves leading by 2 and 1 runner his responsibility. We'll be back. If you want to play manager, those are Bamberger's availables. However, remember, Gantner is hitting for a catcher. That means he has to hold on to Charlie Moore as well as he can. Mike Felder, an outfielder, suffered a hamstring pull last night and really can't play at all. So when you look at those, what you're really seeing is Castillo, Householder, and Manning with a little safety catch on Charlie Moore. So sitting quietly in the corner, Ron Romanek. 1 run, 6 hits, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts in 8 solid innings. And he goes out leading 3-1. Now Jim Gantner with a 9-game hitting streak. Comes in as a pinch hitter against Donnie Moore. 4-1. They're going to check at third. No swing, says Richie Garcia. The 6 saves, you might be interested to know, 4 of them have come against the Minnesota Twins. And he's been busy. Last 8 appearances, a victory, and 6 saves, plus a loss. The loss was a 3-run home run by Jesse Barfield in Toronto. So Gantner has to count his way. 2 balls and no strikes. Nobody out in the ninth. 3-1 in favor of the Angels. Randy Reddy has doubled to chase Romanek. Ball 3. And, of course, Gantner represents a tying run. That's the last thing Moore wants to do is to walk the tying run. Then you have Molitor waiting on deck. He's 2 for 4 today. And he's walked him, so the tying runs are out there with nobody out. Just get an out, Mark is hollering. Get an out. That really ticks any manager off to have your relief pitcher walk the tying run. Charlie Moore, since they've hit for Cerrone, Moore will now run for Gantner, and if there are any more innings, of course, then he is in the lineup to catch. Charlie hit a home run, his first one in 2 years last night. Now, Paul Molitor, single twice, flied out and grounded out. The tying runs aboard, nobody out. 3-1 Angels. And Donnie Moore trying to save this for Romanek with Molitor, Riles, and Cooper due up. The bunt is in the air, backhanded by Moore. The runners hold. A big out. So Bamberger trying to get the tying runs in scoring position, and Molitor pops the bunt up.
And there was no way you could try to let that ball drop or trap it, because if that ball hits the ground, it's going to go into foul territory with the spin it had on it. Very impressed with the hustling, too, Vin, to the extent that Bob Boone, the catcher, was covering third, and Joyner came all the way over from first to cover third because the sensei was coming in.
Well, they got what Mark was hollering about, get an out, and they picked it up. Now it's Ernest Riles, hit into a force play, aboard on a fielder's choice, flied to left and flied to center. So Ernest Riles, who was busy at shortstop with the glove, now trying to be busy with the bat. Ready at second, Moore at first, 1 out in the ninth. 3-1 Angels. Ball 1. The the music on Wisconsin in the background. 1 ball and no strikes. Strike, 1-1. The Angels trying to come up with their favorite weapon. They've turned 2 double plays today, and they led the majors in that department last year, so they're back in double play depth. 2 on, 1 out, 9th inning, 3-1 California, so the lack of the bunt really hurt Milwaukee. One and two.
Riles not too sure about that one. He's going to regroup here.
Mork trying to make sure the Angels do not lose back-to-back games for the first time this year. They lost last night, but they're leading today 3-1. 1-2 to Ernest Riles. Ready at second, Moore at first. Ground ball to the hole, that's through. Here's Reddy around third, and he will score. And it is 3-2 California. Still 1 out, and Cecil Cooper coming up.
Reached out and poked that ball to the opposite field. It's the kind of a ball if you try to pull, you're likely to hit that ground ball to the second baseman. He did a good piece of hitting there, punching it to the opposite field.
Well, it's another 1-run game between these two clubs. And, of course, for the Brewers, they're thinking, imagine this base hit had the bunt been successful. Cecil Cooper, line to center, struck out twice and walked. 0 for 3. Strike. Romanek is still the winner, but now by 1. Fisted foul off third, out of play. It's amazing about Romanek. Against Milwaukee, in Romanek's 8 career starts, 6 of the 8 might be decided by 1 run if this one goes. His only loss, he lost 1-0 to the Brewers. He's in a squeaker every time he goes out there. Just did get a piece of that.
And this is a good example why the bullpen is so important to a manager. Game is on the bases, and who does Moore have to get out? The 3rd and 4th place hitters.
For Gene Mork, the luxury of an ace in the bullpen. Moore was the first Angel reliever to appear in as many as 60 games in 15 years. Ground foul. So it's still 0-2. You might remember Donnie Moore signed a $1 million a year contract with the Angels when he was a free agent last winter. And then in his first appearance as a millionaire, he gave up a game-tying 9th inning home run to Seattle's Jim Presley on opening night. Of course, being a millionaire is no news. There are 55 major league players, 55, making $1 million or more. Hello.
Has it changed?
0-2 the count of Cecil. Again having to protect the plate, lunging to get a piece of it. Reggie Jackson, denied so far today, went 0 for 4. That story remains untouched. Cooper needs 3 hits for 2,000, and that story didn't come close to being written today. 0-2. Booney says time. The tying run is Charlie Moore, a catcher out at second base.
Boone just wants to make sure that they are together. He knows what he wants to call. He put it down twice the way Moore was looking at him, and then the indecision on Moore's face, and Boone has to make sure that, hey, now is not the time to cross me up, nor is it the time for you to throw a pitch that you think I called for.
He has thrown a couple of split-fingered fastballs to Cecil Cooper. Johnny Sain taught him the pitch. Twice, Cooper really had to chase that split finger and just get a piece of it. We'll see what happens 0-2. Fastball fouled away, straight fastball. And again, Booney out to talk. Cecil Cooper, the veteran trying to come back from surgery. He has been a fixture here. He has meant so much to this ball club since he arrived from Boston in 1977. He's a Major League lifetime 300 hitter. 0-2. And he hits it into left center, base hit. Here comes Charlie Moore to score, and the winning run goes to third. And it also means Ron Romanic's day goes down the drain. Not to mention Gene Mark. 3-3. Take another look for the Cecil Cooper Marching and Chowder Society.
Much like Riles, Cooper just punches the ball to the opposite field. Looked like a sinker, low and outside, and he just went with the pitch. No chance for anybody to make a play, and here comes Gene Mock out to make a pitching change.
Show you what kind of a clutch performer Cecil Cooper is. He is now 5 for 10 with 6 RBIs with runners in scoring position. So Donnie Moore comes in, and the killer, of course, for the Angels when he walked Jim Gantner. Molitor pops the butt up, but Riles singles for a run, and now Cooper singles. So Moore will now go head-to-head with Robin Yount with the winning run 90 feet away.
Whenever a manager goes out, you think it's going to be a change, but there's not even anybody warming up in the bullpen. Then he just wanted to get a message across, and what message can you get across? Infield's playing in. They got to shut that run down. They're going to put Yount on and put it up to Robideau.
So what they do is, with runners at first and third, they're so fearful of Yount's ability to pick up the RBI, they will test the rookie. And that means Cooper will advance to second on the intentional walk. The one thing it does, of course, with the bases loaded, it takes a little bit of the noodling away from Donnie Moore. He has to throw strikes. Now, Billy Joe Robideau, this is a remarkable statistic, and admittedly, it is early in the year. You know what his batting average is in the 9th inning?
Right.
Billy Joe Robideau's average, look at that.
Joe Robideau.
And remember, 1 out. Now, he has left a lot of men on base. He flied out with the bases loaded in the third. He left a runner at second in the 5th. That's 4. And then he got an infield single in the 8th, and here he is with a chance to win it. The infield is up, the outfield shallow, and Robideau trying to beat Donnie Moore right here. Split finger job, and the bottom dropped out of it. 0-1.
He wasn't about to be that particular Robideau. If that ball was near the plate, he was going to drive that run in.
Ernest Riles at third. He's carrying the winning run 90 feet away. Chased it, and you can tell a rookie every time, huh? 0-2.
He certainly didn't widen that strike zone. Now it'll be interesting to see what Donnie Moore does. Will they go right after him? I would think they would.
Riles at third, Cooper at second, Yount at first. 1 out in the 9th, 3-3. Ball 1. Short by Schofield. What a double play. Dick Schofield comes up with a miracle double play to slam the lid on Billy Joe Robideau. And Donnie Moore out of the hook. What a play by Schofield with the infield up.
You can't teach that play. He made up his mind. He knew he'd get one here and had enough time to get Robideau. Great play by Schofield. Great instincts.
Extra inning. Well, the last time we saw him, Mark Clear was blowing bubble gum. Let's take another look at that Schofield double play. The third double play turned in by the Angels today to give them 30 for the year. That's been a big weapon for them. And now here is Mark Clear. You might remember we saw Mark sitting back blowing bubble gum. So you have a former Angel pitcher pitching for the Brewers in Mark Clear, and a former Brewer, Donnie Moore, pitching for California.
Juan Castillo.
Behind the plate is Charlie Moore, who went in as a runner for Gantner, who had batted for Cerrone. And out at second base, another product from San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic, Juan Castillo. Bob Boone, Gary Pettis, and Rob Wilfong in that order. 0-1. Clear to repeat. Average is better than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. That would be third among active pitchers, but he walks over 6 per 9, and that's the highest. He also, and this is very dangerous as he works on Boone. Boone is 1 for 3. Clear also has a poor move to first base, and that's a bad weakness for a relief pitcher. 0-3. Mark is 6'4", 215-pounder. His uncle, Bob Clear, is in the Angel pen, a coach. 3-0. In there. Well, we saw Donnie Moore walk the first man he faced in the 9th, and Clear trying not to do that with Boone. In there. 3-2. Bob Boone flied to left, single to center, and popped to short. Ball 4. So each relief pitcher walks the leadoff man he faces. And Mark now, who was able to get out of a jam, first by intentionally walking Robin Yount and then having Schofield come up with a big play on Robideau, now is given a slight advantage. We told you that Clear does not hold runners on. Well, they'll take Boone out and they'll put a little speed down there. Darryl Miller will run for Boone. And we will see if they exploit that weakness. Give you an idea about Clear, in 5 years at Boston, from 81 through 85, it is a staggering thing. 102 guys tried to steal on Clear. 96 of them made it. Only 6 guys were caught.
3 of those guys stumbled.
I guess. 0-1. Now, the Angels have led the American League in sacrifice bunts for the last 5 and hold everything, as Herm Starrett has gone out to the mound to talk to Clear, the pitching coach.
Clear himself says that when he goes out to pitch and somebody gets on, he doesn't even know they're there. He pitches like there's nobody on base. That's okay if you're striking people out and you're in high school, but here, I
remember Jack Sanford, who pitched years ago and threw so hard. I remember Alvin Dark said that Sanford was such a competitor, and maybe Bamberger finds that way with Clear. When Alvin went out to the mound to talk to Sanford, he said, Jack, it's Alvin, trying to break the concentration to make sure he'd get it across to him. 1 ball and no strikes to Gary Pettis. And he gets a bunt down. It'll be fielded by Robideau. The flip to Castillo, and the sacrifice works. We'll pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network. Way to start this year.
streak.
Including the monster in Montreal, the Cardinal 17-inning game with the Expos. Of course, we had a little dazzling 14-inning game with the Mets and the Phils. Wilfong flied to center. Infield single to right, and looped out to short. Rob is 2 for 4. Runner at second, the tiebreaker, 3-3 in the 10th. Right. We told you Cecil Cooper has been a very big man with runners in scoring position. Wilfong is hitting well over 300 in that particular area. And now he has Miller out there with 1 out in the 10th. Little roller up on the chalk and foul. Bringing you up to date on other games for the moment while we have the chance. Atlanta pounding the Phils. Red Sox shading Oakland. Seattle 4-2. Boy, the Blue Jays are hurting. And the Yankees getting back at Texas. Houston, what an amazing story. Hal Lanier's club playing Super Bowl. 0-1. And the Mets leading the East and leading Cincinnati 2-1 in the 5th inning. Interesting seeing the Mets and talking about leading the East. The quirk in the schedule for the Brewers, they don't play an Eastern team till the 20th of May. Down goes Wilfong.
He chased the bad ball. That ball looked like it was over his head.
Take another look where it is, Joe.
It looked like a fastball, just way up there. Out of the strike zone.
Now, what do you do? Well, the youngster for the Brewers, Billy Joe Robideau, had 2 chances to break the game open, and he couldn't do it. The youngster for the Angels has had 1 good swing of the bat, the home run in the 6th inning. And now, with a possible go-ahead run at second, here's Joyner, followed by guess who?